Hey, Jason.
Hey, how you doing?
Excellent. Thank you. Let's get started. First, tell people a little bit about you, and then I want to introduce you to a hypothetical question.
Awesome, man. Well, my name is Jason Spooner, and first off, Dean, thanks for having us on the show. This
Sure.
is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. I own jarsdigital.com. We are a marketing consultancy and fractional CMO service provider. So
Mhm.
we specialize in B2B lead generation, demand generation, pipeline growth. We also provide AI training and then also growth training for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and smaller teams. So trying to fit a little bit of everything into what we do.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my hypothetical. It's the hypothetical for this entire podcast. You've signed a 1-year engagement as fractional CMO with a brand new company, brand new client, new everything about these guys is new to you. Today's day one. Let's talk about what problems you normally see or even go looking for when you sign on a new client. Client might not even realize that they have these problems, but what do you go looking for? Because
Yeah.
you know that there's certain problems you're going to find in almost every client.
So, having done this for 20 years,
Yeah.
day one, the first thing I do is I kick open the door and I say, hey, let's make the logo bigger on everything. That's
Yeah.
day one what I do. Just going to blow that logo up. No, the truth, and that's an awful idea. Don't ever do that. If you're listening to this podcast and you think that's what I need to do, don't do that. The first thing I really focus on day one is immersion. So for day one,
Right.
in those first couple days, it's all about getting to know the business, the brand, the customers, the customer journey, what their current marketing, past marketing has been, everything that's making up that company and their initiatives. It's get to know them through interviews and through audits. So initially, it starts with interviews of key stakeholders, pipeline leaders, channel leaders, growth leaders, vertical leaders, however they have their industry structured or their business structured. So we immerse ourselves in that business, and then from that, days 30 through 60, we start to develop a marketing audit and then a roadmap from that audit. So we get to know the company, then we dive deep into the tactics, what's worked in the past, what hasn't worked in the past, leave no stone unturned, listen as clearly as you can to what everybody is saying. Even the smallest off comment could be an insight that's going to help you propel those next 90 days of strategy. So once the audit is complete, once the roadmap's been set up, then by the end of day 90, we're starting to execute. We've identified some of the problem areas. We've also identified some of the success levers and what is working.
Right.
We're amplifying those success levers, and then we're addressing those problem areas, usually through a triage system. Hey, what's causing the most pain right now? Let's go fix that. And then, hey, should be fixed, but it's not really causing a lot of trouble, a lot of pain. So let's hold up on that until month 6 or month 7.
Of course, it doesn't matter nearly as much these days because everyone's remote. But like, where are you?
If I can be hands-on in person for a company
Right.
that is in person, I'll be there for most of that initial time.
But
I
like,
always
where
find,
geographic? Like, where are you?
oh, physically, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
I did not realize that.
yeah.
So we're only like 100 miles apart. Okay, fair enough. And then, hi, Carla.
Hi, Dean.
Carla, I'm going to assume by the domain name that you're in Canada.
Actually, right at the moment, I'm not in Canada. I'm in Mexico City.
Hmm.
I split my time between Canada and Mexico.
And where in Canada?
So in Canada, I'm based out of Calgary, Alberta.
Oh, my
Nice.
sister lives in Calgary. Boy, you guys are all over the place for me today.
Yep. And then it's getting on winter now. So
Yeah.
my husband and I have come down to Mexico to avoid the snow.
No,
So we're going to be here till
I do
till
not
the
miss snow at all.
spring.
My family for hundreds of years has been in Newfoundland, the island of Newfoundland. Uh,
Oh,
Enough
okay.
so
So you
that
know
a
all
couple of
about
years
it.
ago, when we did like ancestry DNA testing, it specified you're from there because that's how long the lineage was, right?
That's how
Um,
long you guys have been there.
and
So you
oh,
know exactly what I'm
at
talking about
least
right
since
now.
like the 1700s.
Wow.
Yeah. And I live in the part of North Carolina that I mean, so does Jason actually. We live in the part of North Carolina that really doesn't get much snow at all.
Yeah.
And coming from Newfoundland, which the island of Newfoundland, which gets more snow than anywhere else in Canada, let that sink in, right? The most snow in Canada. Then I do not miss snow at all. So hi, Carla. Nice to
Hi.
meet you. So Carla, tell me a little bit about you, and then I want to walk into that hypothetical again.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I'm Carla Howden. I'm a fractional CMO and a marketing strategy consultant. And so I started out in B2B, and then I moved into the marketing agency world. And one of the things that I saw a lot was marketing tactics being done without sort of understanding what it was that we were trying to achieve.
Right.
And so my focus, especially in my fractional CMO practice, is really on making sure, starting with marketing strategy, understanding what it is that we're trying to do, and then building out those tactics, connecting those tactics, and optimizing them against the strategy so that the client's marketing is doing what it needs to do for them and they are getting those results that they want.
Okay. So let's talk about that hypothetical and let's recharacterize
Sure.
it a little bit. So, it's day one of a 1-year engagement, brand new customer, brand new everything, right? What do you like normally try to get accomplished in the first 3 months when you
Yeah,
launch a new
so
client?
it's interesting, listening to Jason, a lot of my processes is a lot like his.
You're really
So
big on the
really coming
logo
in,
expansion kind of thing. Yeah, got it.
sorry, no, yes, always the logo. Always the logo should be bigger. No, but really around sort of step one is getting that understanding of the current situation within the company. So what marketing are they doing? How is that performing?
Right.
What is the makeup of the existing marketing team and how is that functioning? What are their current marketing processes, their workflows, their technology? What is going on and how is the marketing function serving the organization right now? And I do that through a bit of an audit. The CEO usually has some idea of what their pain points are, but like Jason said, they might not know everything. They might not have a clear line of sight on everything. So I come in, I talk to the CEO, I talk to any other senior team leads or senior stakeholders that need to be involved. I talk to the marketing team, and then I also look at the numbers. I look at the analytics, I look at the marketing financials, and I want to get that really clear picture of, where are we starting from? And then once we know where we're starting from, the other piece that I want to know is what are we trying to achieve? What do we want marketing to do for the organization? And that can look like business results, like a certain level of growth or sales. It can look like marketing ROI.
Right.
It can also look like operational goals, like if we're trying to build the marketing team or we're trying to improve our marketing operations. But what is it that we as an organization want marketing to do in that 1-year engagement? So where are we starting now and where are we trying to go? And then from there, very similar to what Jason was talking about, he built out a roadmap. I build out a plan. How are we going to get from where we are now to where we want to go? I make sure that I've got that buy-in from the CEO and any other senior stakeholders that we need to, because that buy-in can be a place where you get hung up if everybody's not on the same page. But once we're aligned, once we're sure this is what we want to do, then it's a matter of implementing that plan. So whether that's building up marketing tactics and getting those into place, whether that's hiring, building our team to get the right skill sets in place, or whether that's improving our workflows or improving our marketing technology to make sure that we have the tools in place. And so really just starting to get that plan implemented and starting to see action in the direction that we want to go.
Okay, Carla, so then let's get deeper into this little hypothetical. Okay. I'm the client side CEO. And it's day one. So we're having sort of our first official conversation. And I'm like, Carla, our first real talk now that you've been brought on board, let's talk about my favorite topic, which is myself as CEO. And but you've worked with lots of CEOs. I have not worked with all that many CMOs. So tell me, what should I do over the next 12 months or right away to sort of amplify what you're bringing to this situation? And what should I not do or stop doing that would sort of dampen your effectiveness?
Sure. So I think for CEOs that are bringing in a fractional CMO, I think I've got a couple of pieces of advice. One is really understand what you want them to achieve. And the other is don't rely on your CMO to execute. And so when I say know what you want them to achieve, I don't mean having the marketing strategy and the marketing plan in place already, because that's going to be their job. But understanding, if at the end of the year, this engagement has gone really well and I'm really happy with it, what does that look like? What does success look like? And then setting those goals forward for the CMO, because if they know what you want them to achieve, they're going to be much more better positioned to be able to deliver that for you. The other piece that I would say when I say don't rely on them to execute. So what you sometimes see is CMOs who are hoping to hire kind of a marketing unicorn. And they want somebody to come in and build their strategy and build their marketing plan, and then also build all of their marketing tactics. They want you to build their website and write their content and do their social media. And first of all, that's sort of unrealistic because those are really disparate skill sets. But also, that's not the best value that you're going to get from your CMO, because a fractional CMO is part-time. So you're going to take up all of their time with that execution, and it's going to probably not be as fast as you want it to be because they're not there every single day of the week, depending on the way that you've got them set up. But your CMO is also probably your most expensive, like on an hour by hour basis, probably your most expensive marketing person that you hire, because they're bringing that senior level expertise and that senior level experience. And so it doesn't make sense to have your CMO building your website when you could bring in a developer and have them do that for half the price and half the time. So your CMO's job is to know what marketing you need to do, and then bring in the right skill sets and manage that team properly to get that done. But it's not necessarily to be doing all of that marketing work themselves.
Jason, how about you? What should a CEO do or stop doing to squeeze like every last penny of value out of that 1 year of CMO time they're going to get?
Yeah. Well, we cut off Carla, but I also might want to steal what she's going to say. So I don't know if I actually want her to finish that sentence because it might be too good and it might be something I wanted to say. But Carla, do you mind if I jump in then, if that's okay?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Awesome. So here's the two kind of keywords that I use that first day when I sit down with the CEO. It's transparency and empowerment. So on the transparency side, I need you to not be afraid to share your goals and your concerns. I need you to tell me what you feel hasn't worked in the past, what you want to get out of my role, and what you envision the company becoming over that next year. And we got to know all those goals, whether they're affluential goals or aspirational goals or quantitative goals or qualitative goals, whatever they are. I just need to know, where do you want to go? And then I need access to any data or decision makers or stakeholders that can help us get there. So if you're like, hey, I want you to help us improve the revenue numbers and our profitability, but you're not going to tell me what those are right now, how are we going to improve it?
Right.
How am I going to know the stakes that I need to take and the steps I need to put into place to make that happen? And the second part is you have to foster a culture of collaboration between us, the CEO and the fractional CMO, and the CMO and the marketing team that's doing the execution. So just like Carla is saying, if you have a team of 2 or 3 in place already, my goal is not to come in and suddenly be their manager. I'm not there to micromanage them, look over their shoulders, tweak this word here, tweak this word there. I'm also not there to replace the team. I'm not there so that you can let go of 2 other people and have me do that work, right? That's not going to work. So what I'm there to do is kind of a couple things. 1, empower them. And then 2, inspire them to just improve on the work that they're doing and get behind the strategy that we're building. And if we're all rowing in the same boat, then my job becomes a lot easier. Your job becomes a lot easier. And we're going to get to where we want to go with that transparent goal that we've set.
Then let's talk about that for a second. I'm still CEO, okay? And so, Jason, I tell you, there's been like supervision on that management team. There's been management, but there's never been like anyone in the leadership position over marketing. So I'm looking at this team today, day one, and I'm trying to envision what they're going to look like 12 months from now when you cycle out. So like, how is that team going to be different after you've been here for a year?
So I can tell you in my experience, how that team is different is growth. So there's the obvious. There might be new roles that get identified and you bring on new roles, or you might, spin off roles that are no longer relevant to the new strategy or new business course, right? So you might have new people or you might have new roles, right? But let's say the core team stays there the entire year. They're working under the fractional CMO, and the difference is going to be an evolution and growth in their skill set and their confidence at their job and their ability to look at what's happening above their core focus. So if their core focus is managing paid media, they might have been heads down in paid media for the last 3 years, but through a fractional CMO, they might start to look at what happens further down the funnel. They might get a better grasp of data analysis and how that data can help improve their paid media efforts. They might get a better grasp of conversions and how the conversion rates can be optimized on landing pages in certain ways with certain elements or certain bid tactics. So all in all, we're improving their skill set in general, but also 2, empowering them to look just beyond that maybe myopic view of what their day-to-day is.
And Carla, what do you think? How's that team going to be different?
Yeah, no, I think, I want to build on what Jason said. It depends, of course, on what's going on within that team when you get there. But one of the big themes is really around collaboration and working together. So depending, sometimes what I see when I come into a team is they're all working on sort of individual projects, but they might not have that higher level of strategy or direction to help them, using Jason's language, all row in the same direction. And so a CMO can come in and help give them that clarity, help give them those priorities, and help them understand what success is going to look like, so that that team can be working together to really achieve sort of the goals of the organization. Another thing that I see is if you've got issues of collaboration, like Jason was saying before, if you've got teams that maybe aren't sharing information, they're working in silos, they're not working together. By helping to build up better processes, by helping to build up better collaboration, you can get those teams working together. And so when I work with teams, what I see is at the end of the engagement, they are feeling more comfortable about talking to each other, more comfortable about sharing information, more comfortable about understanding what they're trying to achieve as a team. And so then having more empowerment to make decisions, work together, and build those solutions instead of maybe just working on social media or just working on building the website or whatever it is that their individual job role is.
Okay. So, Carla, I'm going to give you a fill-in-the-blank question. Easiest possible question you'll ever have to answer.
Okay.
Many clients just don't understand.
Many clients just don't understand. I think a lot of clients have a bit of a sense, and marketers are responsible for this. We've done this. A lot of clients have a bit of a sense that marketing is sort of magic. And so they either think it's
marketing is magic, people. Don't dig into it.
I had that on a hat. I'm pretty sure somewhere it's on a hat.
No, but they either think it's this special sort of ununderstandable thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or at the other end of that, they think it's like a magic bullet that's just going to solve all of their problems. And marketing is neither one of those. Marketing is, at the end of the day, just like anything else in your business, a matter of understanding what you need to do, putting a plan in place, and then executing against that plan. And so, obviously marketers who are good at their craft are very skilled at what they do, and you want to have the right skill sets in place, and you want to make sure that you're bringing the right people together. But it's not this marketing magic. It's just getting the right butts in seats, putting the right plan in place, and then doing the plan.
And Jason, what do you think? Clients
Spot on.
just don't understand what?
Yeah, I was going to say just marketing is a long-term effort.
Right.
There's so many times I get on the horn with a CEO or a CRO and they're like, hey, we need sales tomorrow. And that's not a marketing fix. That's a sales fix. If you need a sale next week or the week after, that's hitting the phone lines, getting the customer. That's a sales fix. On the marketing side, it's about being consistent over time. To Carla's point, you show up day after day with the same messaging, the same tone, the same voice, the same branding, and you build that brand in the consumer mind over time. And that's going to pay dividends in the long run. And sure, you can mix up campaigns, you can introduce new tactics, new channels, but they should all correlate and fall back onto that centralized brand image and brand value that you're putting into the market.
Okay, Jason, I have another hypothetical for you. Someone roped you in to sitting down at a table in Starbucks with three other brand new, like they just went out on their own last week, fractional CMOs. And they're looking for advice around like the business of fractional CMOing, right? And so the fill in the blank question for that is new fractional CMOs need to understand what?
So if they're coming from the agency side,
right,
I tell them they already have a leg up. If they're coming from the brand side, I tell them that one of the biggest factors or the one of the first frustrations they're going to face is that they're going to have to pivot out of a client at the drop of a hat to go work on another client's work.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be juggling multiple clients, multiple initiatives, and they're not going to have the say in necessarily how their strategy and tactics are executed on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
They're going to kind of have to be like, hey, here's what I want you to do. And then if they don't do it the way that you want them to do it, be prepared to be maybe potentially frustrated at that. Because you're not in there every day. You don't have a permanent position. You don't have as much pull as you would if you did have a permanent position. So there's only so much attention that you can impart on the execution of the strategy and the tactics that you lay out with them.
Carla,
The
what do you think?
other,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say the other area that I always emphasize is you have to deliver value as quickly as possible. So it's great if you're off and you're doing the interviews and you're laying out the marketing audit and you're putting all this time and energy into the research side. That's fine up to a point. Because at a certain point, they're going to have to, the CEO is going to sit down with the CFO and justify the CMO expense that they just brought on board. And if all you have to show for it are audits and research documents, it's going to be a little bit harder to prove the value that you're bringing to the table. Not saying day one you got to go out and make a sale or add some lead conversions, but there should be a roadmap to that point to where they can see and feel comfortable that you are going to bring on value versus just telling them what they're doing wrong at the moment.
And Carla, what do you think? Brand new FCMOs need to understand what?
Yeah, I think 100% agree with what Jason was saying. That time management and that ability to sort of shift gears is critical. You've got to, manage your time, manage your expectations, and put those boundaries in place so that you don't overextend and burn yourself out trying to be, full time with all of your clients all of the time, because you can't do that.
Right.
I think other things that were interesting to me when I started. The first was, I knew intellectually how much hustle it was going to be, but it really is a lot of work. If you're a fractional CMO, you're not just marketing for your clients. You have to also market yourself.
Yep.
So you've got to be out there talking to people, getting clients, selling yourself. And that for me, I think the most surprising thing for me was how much harder that was than I expected it to be. And how sort of vulnerable it was to go out on my own. I spend all my day telling my clients how to market their businesses. But when it was myself and my business that I was selling, that was a lot more emotional for me. And I think, it gives me an interesting lens into when I'm working with a client and when they're struggling to maybe let something go or stick to a plan or some of these other things, because that's their company and that's their baby and their blood and sweat and tears. I had that experience. And I've talked to other fractional CMOs who've said the same thing. It's way easier to put a plan together for a client and sell a client than it is to sell yourself. And that, I think, is something you have to be prepared for if you're going to be a fractional CMO.
I agree with all of that. I'm not a fractional CMO, but most of my clients are fractional CMOs. Okay. So Carla, part of the the fun of this podcast is that who you end up paired with as a co-guest, completely random, because everyone picks their own time slot, right? We do not curate the guests like, oh, these two people, we don't do any of that. And part of that is just the energy of randomness that it introduces. And so you're now in a podcast with another fractional CMO, right? Mm-hmm. Or, think about it as like we're in a building full of fractional CMOs now, and you just got into the elevator with some stranger. So since you have this opportunity, what, if any, question would you ask Jason since you've been randomly paired? And then I'm going to let him ask you a question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think something that's really interesting, the more fractional CMOs I talk to, the more people I meet that are doing this, we almost always have an additional piece that we bring to the table or some additional background. For me, I mentioned I come from a strategy place. Jason, you mentioned that a lot of what you do is sort of coaching as well, and it sounded like a lot more on the technology side. So I'd love to hear about sort of what that looks like with your clients and how you bring that together with your fractional CMO practice.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in my experience, before I put on my fractional CMO hat, right, I was leading different media teams, media buying teams for both agencies and startup organizations. So I was always building teams. I built several teams that started from spending $20,000 on Facebook to suddenly we were spending $10 million across multiple channels. And I enjoyed that work immensely because you're bringing on somebody that they have a softer skill set, or it's their first job out of college, or it's their second job out of college, and they really want to start on the management track or the executive track. And so you're able to sit down with them and just provide insight into the soft skills. Here's how I would approach that. Here's how I would approach this. But more importantly, you get to work with them on analyzing and improving their technical skill set. So on the media side, that's really going deep in how to analyze if a campaign's going well or needs improvement. On the technology trend side, right now we're doing a lot of AI training. So you have a small team, and this is a real example. Just last week, I was with a team for 2 days going through a training on generative AI for writing. So there were 3 people on the organization. One's the director of marketing, one's a new hire, assistant associate of marketing, and the CEO. And they don't have that senior leadership team. That's where I'm coming in. And we're just going through real life examples of, hey, here's what that associate in marketing is doing on the day-to-day basis. Let's work together on teaching and learning together how AI can help improve that workflow. So we wrote 5 blogs together on AI and 4 follow-up emails and like everything else. And the goal was at the end of that the team would feel comfortable and confident bringing AI into the mix and into the fold. So for me, it's like, hey, where are you struggling? Is it a skills gap? Is it a wills gap? Let's do our best to fix that over the several months that we're working together.
It just occurred to me. I talked about the randomness of the guests on the podcast, and I just realized that this episode has like extra randomness because Jason was technically scheduled. He scheduled himself for a different recording time slot today. And then when I looked at the calendar, I realized he had needed to like move. And so he rescheduled himself into this episode. So he's like, there's no way to predict that Jason was going to be here. Okay. So Jason, like what, if any, question for the other fractional CMO in the episode?
Yeah. So Carla, you had mentioned great advice on if you were thinking about becoming a fractional CMO. Here's what to consider. I think my question for you, and this is the question I love asking because it just helps elevate all of us, is there a lesson that you've learned maybe the hard way as a fractional CMO that changed how you approach the role today or how you think about the work that you're about to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have 2 answers to that. One is sort of building upon what I was talking about before around just sort of vulnerability and how hard that was. I mean, my job was literally when I was on the agency side, it was to come into a company, understand them really well, and put together their brand strategy, put together their marketing strategy, pull all those threads together, and sort of spit something out the other side. And that was so much harder to do for myself because of so many of the things that I see with clients, where they're afraid to let an opportunity go, or they're afraid to maybe commit to a certain course of action or a certain plan because what if it doesn't work out, or what if this other thing happens? And it gave me a lot more understanding and empathy of what that looks like, being in that chair myself and trying to apply my own processes that I had done for years to my own self. It was a lot more difficult. And so that was a really interesting learning for me. I think the other thing that was humbling and interesting was, I've been out of execution for a lot of years. I've been overseeing teams and I've been giving feedback on execution and on plans, but coming back in and building my own website and running my own social media and doing a lot of these things, just reinforced my respect for all of those team members and the amount of skill and the amount of dedication and effort that's required to pull together all of those different pieces of a marketing plan and make it work. When I was trying to kind of do it all by myself and I hadn't done it for a while, it really reinforced for me how talented a lot of those people are.
Guys, not extra randomness notwithstanding, this has been really great, and I really I loved this episode. Okay, so it's time to wind down. Carla, who should be reaching out to you these days, and what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mostly work with small and medium businesses, especially in the B2B space. And usually the people that connect with me are somebody who's in charge of sort of the business as a system. So that's the CEO or maybe the COO. And the way for them to get in touch with me is they can reach me on my website above there, m-consulting.ca, or my email is carla@m-consulting.ca.
Jason, how about you? Who should be reaching out to you these days, and how should they get in contact with you?
The same people that are reaching out to Carla, but reach out to her first because she sounds much smarter than I did on this podcast. I would say if you're in the B2B SaaS space, software space, and you have a smaller team, and you want to bring on somebody that has more of that senior leadership to set the strategy or to take a look at what you're doing under the hood to ensure that it's driving the results that you want. You're curious about, hey, what's the skills analysis of the team that you have in place? How can we leverage more tools better, like HubSpot or AI, et cetera? then reach out to me. I'm the guy to bring in for that. I'll help you out. We'll get everything righted up.
All right, guys, thank you both for being here. This is fantastic. I really enjoyed this.
Thanks so much, Dean. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks, Carla.
All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you